Méphiston Red! Méphiston Red! Warstone Glow!
Habs are gonna win because it's hockey playoff season, and I'm taking some of my time to come here. Welcome, guys. Welcome to La Soirée Peinture. So today, we're in English. You guys are gonna have to bear with us for a while. We'll talk to you in French in another episode, but today we're doing special episode 8. So one of our interview series. So we have someone special today. So we're gonna get to that after. So we have the interview with Ikarus Pattern, aka Michal. That we'll get to that point soon. So we want to thank Abyss, as usual, helping us, our great gaming store, helping us to do what we do, say all the stupid stuff that we say, and be able to do interviews like that in the morning. So Dave, hello. Michal, welcome. So let's get this started. So Michal, before we start, so even before the whole presentation, we have a habit of like asking people, what are you working on? Any projects or excuses for not having a project is fine. But what are you working on right now?
So like the big thing I work on right now that I didn't really plan on doing at all. It was just something I always wanted to do, and then the guys in the Games Workshop announced World Eaters Codex coming out very soon. I was like, oh, maybe I should do something little and small for get some, maybe like an extra bit I can attach somewhere, and that kind of exploded into a possessed by a corn demon land raider. And it's not small anymore, and I really should stop myself from doing small little things because it's gonna be great. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now, and parallel to that, just some Space Wolf stuff for the new refresh.
So typical thing that we all get caught on. So you saw a release and you said, oh, maybe, and then it created ideas. Because I'm hearing Space Wolf, so that dates back to Adepticon. Then you saw something from the World Eaters. So you're just like us.
Yeah, it's more like my clients. My customers are like us, because I have a fairly long list of like already ordered commissions. But I was quite lucky that they sort of work out time-wise. So I had a Space Wolf guy, and he knew that the refresh is coming. So like, hold on until, let's see what they do, right? And let's see if we can like tweak it. Maybe it's gonna be different. Like, Emperor's Children sort of came back all the way back to the sort of almost original look from like 3rd edition. So they were like, let's see what they're gonna do with Space Wolf. So it's sort of the same with Emperor's Children as well. Actually, I was waiting for that commission to kick off because guy was like, let's wait. That's sort of what drives it most of the time. And the World Eaters is just like, I never liked World Eaters, but since started making some kits for them, I just really love working for their stuff. I don't know why.
But at least it matched releases, so you can like order them depending on your clients also.
Yeah, it's I have this policy with the clients that I don't accept commission until they accept the fact that it's gonna be done when it's gonna be done. There is no schedule. So I can kind of move them about. Obviously, I stay in touch with everyone and let them know if something slips or if I have to put something on pause. But I always make it very clear that I'm kind of working on my own schedule, mostly because things like that happen, right?
It's always a good idea to manage expectations.
Yeah. No, hedge that I'm working for hobbyists, most of them with massive piles of shame, so no one's ever really in rush. And if someone is, I always accommodate, obviously. But like, I'm never going.
We're always in rush, but we always technically have a pile of projects or a pile of fame or opportunities, like we like to call it here. So, yeah, we can probably wait usually.
Yeah. No, I've never had...
cool.
Yeah.
So, why don't you present a bit yourself quickly? I said your name, I said the name of your company, but if quick, who are you? Who did we invited today?
My name is Michal Kozłowski. Born in Poland. I live in UK. I've been 3D artist for games and a little bit of ads and stuff like that for about almost 3 decades now. Worked mostly as an environment vehicle artist for different projects, and obviously, like the first memories I have already had Warhammer 40K included in it. So I've started with second edition. Had an elder army that was had swooping hawks that started in high fly with vortex grenades, things like that. You know, the usual second edition things. And so I sort of been in my life pretty much consistently, always, mostly books, Extreme, Horus Heresy, and basically anything that Forge World touched fun. So they've been always big inspiration to me. Other than that, like I said, I live in UK, a small town, and just doing this most of the time.
And if we go to doing this, so how did you get to what you do actually at this time as a, I guess at this point it's not a hobby anymore, it's at least a business venture. So why did you get to that point, or how?
It just got itself, really. Like, it's a weird story. So when Horus Heresy second edition came out, actually when the trailer they've done came out, I was still working in my normal sort of day job, and I was like, "This looks incredible. Is that a game? Oh, it's second." I didn't even know they had Horus Heresy, the first edition at that point, because I was mostly just reading books and stuff. I was like, "This might be actually really good time for me to get back in miniatures and painting and building, because I haven't done it for like 10 something years." So I've started building my own minis. If you go on my Instagram, you can kind of see the progress of my hobby and this sort of business thing. So I started from Phoenix Guard, and then I was like, I need to have a vehicle for them, right? They need to have some sort of a carrier. And I really like, one of the few I don't like from Forge World are the Land Raider, Proteus, and Spartan. I just don't think they fit. I don't like. It feels a little bit to me like they really tried to force the old Hammer designs in, even if they didn't work. But someone told them we have to have that. It just doesn't match for me personally. But I really like the actual Land Raider, the Phobos pattern. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get. I ordered one from Forge World. I looked at it. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna send it back. I just do it myself. So I did one. It was the Emperor's Children Ikarus Pattern kit, and I posted on Reddit.
So the full resin kit that Forge World were doing at that time? Or it was an upgrade kit?
B1. It was the conversion kit that made for a Mark III, and basically the one that adds like side sponsons, changes the exhaust and the front. Yeah. So I did that. I put some like Emperor's Children detail on it. I posted it on Reddit, and it just like exploded. So some people wanted to buy that one, so I did that one. Then I was like, had a friend who was like, "Oh, I'll pay you some money. Can you make me a Dark Angels one?" I made that Dark Angels one. Then I got a big customer from Canada who noticed those, and he was like, "Oh, can you do this and this and this and this?" I was like, "Okay, sure." And I'd never thought about it as a business. I was really happy at my job. So it was always like a background thing. Instead of doing my own armies and miniatures, I spend my free time on those things. On Etsy, more customers came in, like stuff like that. And around 4 months ago, I just couldn't do 2 things at the same time. I just had no time, and also family, second stuff like that. So something had to give. And I just risked it. So I was like, you know what, like let's just see what was gonna happen. I had some savings. Let's see what's gonna happen with if I just keep doing this. It is some sort of an income. It's not as big as what I was making before, but it's definitely way more fun. So that's basically it. And I've been doing it full time since January, I would say. So like 4 months now.
Okay. I thought you had been doing that for longer. So it was really like many people for those kinds of things. They do it as an afterthought to their day job, but then you decided because life and because choices, you decided to do it full time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, just like I had a chat. Basically, I was sort of not between jobs, but like I was like, okay, the project's ending that I was working on, and I was not fan of the next project. And I'm sort of in a position of my career when I'm able to choose where I want to go. And I really didn't want to do that. And I spoke to my wife. I was like, you know what? Like, I really like doing this. It's not the same money. We have savings, but it's probably going to be low. Can I try doing this?
But at least you have commissions, so it's still...
Yeah, well, I didn't have commissions.
More than zero.
I didn't have any commissions on that one because I wasn't taking
okay.
it. Because I wasn't, I just did not have
thinking
time.
of it as a job.
Yeah. So I had one commission at the time, and when it's done, then if someone came, I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I went to my wife, like, you know what, I've been doing this for about 2 years as a hobby. Seems to be growing, right? Like, there's more and more things to do. I have to refuse people. You want to see what's going to happen if I put full time in it? And then she was like, yeah, okay, you know what, let's try it. So yeah, and then I literally filled up my entire year in like 3 for commission wise or more. So I stopped taking commissions again for this year. And if anything, I probably took a few too many because I wasn't like, you know, I was like, okay, I need money, I need buffer. And
I think from what you're saying from your field of work is still going to be there if in 1 year or 2 years you want to go back to it. I guess.
If anything, my field of work expanded because I can go into 3D printing now. I can go into natural design now. I can go into this was actually from the career point of view really, really good move. Really expanded my ability to like find a job. So yeah, quite happy with the decision now, but it was not like easy decision to make.
Yeah. So I'm hearing also a lot. So then it all started for you. It was very personal, right? So it's the design itself that you were like feeling was not right. So is it more like really purely personal, or it's more, in your opinion, you wanted to bring it back more to artworks or older designs that you've seen of Horus Heresy, let's say, which is your trigger point, I guess. Let's Horus Heresy.
So it wasn't like I absolutely love the design of Mark II. I think it's amazing. It was more of a quality of it that I was like not happy with. I think, well, now I know, but at that point I was like, I think their cast is just reaching the life. Like you could literally see like cleaning scrapes on the mold and then stuff like that, which we now know is the case because literally like a month after that, the Mark II was pulled from the market. So obviously and they're not making a new one. And that's sort of the reason why I really started doing it. So the best thing about the hobby for me as a kid was always Forge World stuff. I'm not really like Games Workshop stuff. The characters are amazing, but if it comes to the vehicles and what they were doing, that stuff is the Forge World designs were just always like if you think about it, as far as I understand, pretty much all the iconic designs that we know from the range, like Thunderhawk, like Fellblade, like all the big tanks, they're not Citadel miniatures designs, they are Forge World designs. They're just being absorbed into the main line. So that's something I always followed. And I remember vividly days when I've seen a release of the Metal Thunderhawk. Like I was actually lived through that releases. Like I've seen when they actually shown the Baneblade for the first time. And also what Forge World did amazingly, the like Legion specific conversions, like the Castroferum and Ferrum Infernus Dreadnoughts and stuff like that, but just had this personality that's like proper Legion related and chapter related. And that's missing now from Games Workshop since the Forge World kind of.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it's something we all lived through. Is like 40K and 30K were really like as you said, different bit companies. They were handled differently. So Forge World, it was all about tanks, Legion specifics, and they had books. novels. So I think many of us got, because me, I started with 40K, but really quick, I went over to 30K because in my mind it was all, I was like, wow, cool tanks, and my legion can have its own thing, and there's characters, and it was really more narrative if you want, because there was still like 40K was too, but 30K really had a structure plus tanks. So I think many of us like tanks, and there was a lot of them. So I was just saying, basically, I think we agree there's a difference between 40K and 30K. So what really attracted you was those tanks and vehicles and what you were seeing in 30K, basically, that attracted you to that hobby.
Yeah, I think it's more about, I think it's the personalization of vehicles that I really like. So my job was always, obviously, if you work in games, you're already coming into existing art style, existing design, sort of language, existing story, and you kind of have to, especially if it's a new job, you're just starting, that's progress. I mean, you kind of have to have the skill set of matching your work to that. There are restrictions, there are that you just have to, you cannot just make whatever you want, right? Something that has to fit something that's already existing. And that, I like that a lot. It's always a puzzle for me. So that's one of the things why I really like what I'm doing right now is like, let's take the lore and like the existing designs of a faction and then existing vehicles and like how to make this vehicle still look like this vehicle, but also match the setting, also match the design. So it's not just do whatever I want, however I want. And I like those restrictions. It's a puzzle for me. And I've done so many vehicles in my life, just making something from scratch that I like with no restrictions. It's just not like stimulating enough anymore. Right? I can just do it whenever I want, sort of. So that's definitely what attracted me the more. And the Horus Heresy is just, especially the Forge World designs from like the first edition and all that kind of stuff, they just have they're much more difficult to do than 40K because they are much cleaner. They also like the less is more, like the thing that there's just so like, not for all the factions, but most of the factions, like they just go like bare minimum indicator of who they are.
You have less stuff to hide behind compared to 40K. Yeah. It's more over the top.
And also I've noticed the players of Horus Heresy, they just like things to be very minimal. While 40K is just like, let's start some candles and relics and dead people on it and like some gore and spikes and then we're done, right? Like it's much more forgiving. Obviously it's not, but like 40K is just it's easier to do because it's much more forgiving. You can get away with more. While Horus Heresy has to be like almost like perfectly crafted for it to appear.
Yeah, we had the discussion, you and me, before a bit. So it's like 40K is really like high fantasy, like a bit like Age of Sigmar is now. So compared to 30K, that is more realistic. So they have more militaristic and like if it's a structure in a world that is building stuff. Compared to 40K, it's like Siege of Terra happened, all hell broke loose, and like, there's no normal. And we can get to that later, but I think sometimes that's why when you try to have clean stuff in 40K, sometimes it feels weird because everything else around it, it's like orcs, tyrannids, chaos, eldars, and then you want nothing's clean in 40K. So yeah. I guess you're right. The design is really different when you try to do your restrictions, like you say, on the design.
So the way I see it is 40K is grimdark, but Horus Heresy is not grimdark. It's like Horus Heresy is like retro tech sci-fi sort of with like beginnings of grimdark. It's like when you're designing something for Horus Heresy, you sort of making the design choices you make is like what would has to be so it would evolve into what grimdark is. It's like the first sort of seeds of grimdark. That's the kind of stuff you try to put in. So
that's what I was gonna say. You're right. It's like the Horus Heresy that it's slowly moving towards the end. It's becoming chaos and it's becoming grimdark. Yeah. But at the beginning, there's no real grimdark in the design itself. At least there's no skulls and purity seals everywhere yet.
Could we draw a
No
parallel?
religion.
Could we draw a parallel between like antiquity, antique style, going through like medieval times and being more like Gothic?
Yeah, it's literally that. It's literally classical architecture morphing into Gothic because of the really like it's literally that. Like it's not even subtle. It's like to me, Horus Heresy general style is like, what if Rome survived till our days?
Yeah.
They have very like even praetor and then legions.
Even the names, the legions, the concept, the structure. I don't think they're trying to hide it.
No. Games Workshop is anything but subtle about their influences. Like that, so that's something that like it's actually quite easy to figure out what they base it on, and then extrapolate it to your own designs, which makes it a little bit easier. Yeah, but it's all about like dark angels, right? They were knights in Horus Heresy, and they like sort of dark age, the medieval. What's the name of that period? It's like Dark Ages, basically.
Yeah.
So you have the height of the sort of knighthood and like where everything was prospering and stuff, and then in 40k it's the same knights, but it's like the Dark Ages and everything's fallen, and then so you can put things on your tanks like angels. Because obviously Dark Angels, they like this motif and stuff like that, but they more angelic, and they still have hoods, but they don't really look angry and
nice guys
and disguise and stuff like that. But you already put that in, because then if you want to, you already have that thing, and then you just make that put a skull inside of the head or something like that. Like just make it a little bit more grimdark. So that's sort of how I'm trying to think about how I approach my difference between Horus Heresy, designing kits for Horus Heresy and that's sort of how I see it. Like I don't think Horus Heresy is grimdark, and even if you read books, it's not very grimdark. They very
not that. Oh, you're right. We never discussed it, but it's a good point. Like clearly not at the beginning, as you said. It's more a sci-fi, like antique, like you said, a society that we can relate to from antiquity that would have evolved to sci-fi age.
Yeah.
But then as you read the books and you go towards chaos, so there's more corruption and everything, it becomes more grim, dark, feudal, and it becomes different. Really, it becomes religious also, which is the opposite of what they want at the beginning. So that's a big theme. So yeah, it's true. Because 40k, as you said, it's clearly grimdark. You take something, put a skull. It needs a skull.
And then also, when possible, I always make the Horus Heresy vehicles look way more advanced. More sensors, more like sharp lights, more like, sort of accessories if it needs any. Everything is like a bit more like high tech and new, and that's sort of why I think personally what I disagree with like Primary's tech design they've done. It fits more into Horus Heresy. Everything's advanced, new, high tech, and stuff like that. Then it fits into the grimdark and sort of clashes with a lot of, at least the people I know and I talk to.
Yeah, because I know you have the same opinion. Many people have that one. Is that, and it's what they presented at the beginning. So if I understand correctly, you're of the point that what at the beginning of Heresy, it was the peak of technology. So the cleanest and best technology, STCs and everything, should be in 30k, because they say that in 40k they lost everything. They're scrambling to try and have stuff. And primaries are clearly kind of an advance, which is different to the lore timeline, if you want. That's what you're saying.
Well, as far as I understand, okay, I might be wrong. My lore might be going bad here. But they already were fallen technology in a Horus Heresy, because the forgetting of technology, spreading of STC and stuff like that happened with Age of Strife.
Yeah.
Right?
So they were already like
technology was before Age
losing
of Strife. And then, but they were still, because they were still a coherent empire in a process of rebuilding, and there was no schism of Mars. Everyone was working sort of together. Then in Great Crusade, they were able to sort of like the tech heresy. Was the tech heresy already a thing? Mechanicum, or they still okay with progressing technology?
Yes, it had already happened. So
yeah, I think they were already not very keen on improving the image of God. So I think they already weren't happy with creating, but they did, because like what Deimos and Mars Pattern Rhinos, they are heresy products. They're not Mark 1s, they Mark 2, like I think they like Mark 2 equivalent. So they still were doing improvements, but they weren't come up with like new stuff. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I probably need to read more about it. But like,
if I remember correctly, I think the Emperor put also rules limiting the discovery.
After they merged with Mars,
Yeah.
and it became the Omniscient, so they start to put rules on how Mars could evolve, so how and on what they would work on. So, but it's for sure it's not cookie cutting clear. So Games Workshop is a bit vague on that, and it was more developed back in the days, even before Iron Blight. But yeah, the generic is what you're saying, is they're kind of in a state that they found back stuff, they are developing new high-tech stuff, and then Heresy happens and everything shuts down again. So
well, one thing for sure, they were still working on technology and like sort of improving and building stuff and working very well during the Horus Heresy. It's definitely not happening in 40k, right? Well, it shouldn't. It weren't until the Primaris. Like everything was. I mean, there's Razorback and like a new knife and things like that, but it's mostly if they found an STC, then more than coming up with their own sort of technology.
Yeah, it was always the angle they were using is like a celebration, like, oh my god, we found something, and it would look like the previous stuff because they would find something back. It was not going to be something new. So but we so I think that's what affected many of your ideas, because you're on that angle. But I think, and we discussed it a bit, but we can do it now. It's offline we did, but we discussed, you and me, like, so I think Games Workshop was following that, and then at some point, Primaris is a good example. They could still say, oh, we found something, but then they decided to have a complete lore explanation of why Call had prepared that in the Heresy at the name of the Emperor. We all know the reason more or less, but they decided to do something completely new. And that's when people like me a bit, some people not, you, it affects you more, but like clearly it was a design change in the Space Marine range. Because it was suddenly, as you said, everything is me personally, I like that everything was grimdark, minutes to midnight. So they're giving you new kits and stuff, but it's always upgrades or not new stuff. So from a business perspective, they probably wanted new life, so they put Primaris. That's a fair assessment. But as you said, it was a complete overhaul of the design. Primaris is the tanks, so we can talk about those ones because that's the one I'm pretty sure that affected more your design and ideas. But yeah, it's completely different. Suddenly, it flies like flying. It hovers.
The graph tech is not new in the setting at all. Like you have everything of Custodes is graph. You have land speeders. You have jet bike. Like it's been there. Like it's not something that they come up from nowhere.
Yeah.
I think so. This is a bit like I generally don't like criticizing someone's decisions and designs, especially if I don't know exactly. On like professional level, there's a lot of things I disagree, and I would do differently based on the knowledge I have, which is extremely minimal. But like I can talk. I was thinking about it quite a long time, like what might have happened, why Primaris happened the way they happened, and that. But in general, I think the reasoning they've done it is good. They had new lore coming. Chaos is getting incredibly more powerful in lore than they were before, because they have, they're not limited to one location anymore. They can pop in anywhere and anywhere. And then obviously the Chaos Gods like really boosting them up. The Primars are Primarchs are coming back, like, you know, Mark 8 and a bolter is not going to cut it anymore. It's all old tech, very limited. They need something new, they need something more powerful, and they need a lot of it. But it's clearly a lore requirement. You know, I can see a writer's cool story, like, but we really need to like do something about Space Marines because otherwise they're just going to be completely outclassed. That's clearly, like, I can, when I've been on a few briefings of that sort in different projects before, and I kind of see maybe how that meeting happened. But I think something that's like sort of, you know, when Forge World sort of collapsed because of Alan Live's death, which was sudden, and they were carrying the vehicular design pretty much since, you know, 20, 25 years. Like, if Games Workshop needed new vehicles for the setting, they were going to the Forge World, and the Forge World was doing that. Not Citadel. Citadel was focusing on characters, mostly. And then, you know, as I've never met the guy, but I know he almost single-handedly carrying the lore. He wrote the Badab War, he wrote the Horus Heresy, and then everyone was like working very, very closely with him. And that kind of tragedy, that just collapses the company like that. If you have a staple of your company, no one wants to work there anymore. Like, why? Like, if you stay in a company because of a person and that person dies, tragically, move on. And suddenly Games Workshop find themselves, I think, like, that's my sort of, I have no evidence for that whatsoever, wrong. They found themselves in a position that the vehicle design team just gone. So what we're doing, and we have this new release coming, like, I don't, like, timing-wise sort of aligns, because I don't know how long this whole thing took, but like, so someone had to do something, and if you're losing all your knowledge, your experience, all your artists at some point, you know, like, wipe the slate, start something new, maybe, like, vehicle-wise, because character-wise, I mean, Mark 10, that's Mark 4 upgraded. Like, if you think, like, just look at it, like, it's bigger, like, but it's a upgraded thing, and they had talent to carry that, and their character was brilliant. But the vehicle work sort of slumped down with the Forge World sort of demise, and then it I think that shows in their vehicle designs. They just didn't know what to do because they just didn't have experts to carry that and tell them. So that's sort of my explanation to why it happened. I really like the lore of it, and I think it's a good idea. I think they just ran out of talent in a period where they just couldn't. They just really needed the most.
Yeah, because as you said, it fit the lore. We can agree or disagree. Me, as you said, I like it because they even linked it in the Horus Heresy at the end. So the Shattered Legions that you were following in Selenar, they're the one that found on they saved from the Sons of Horus the Primaris Sangre that was used to make the Primaris. Then Call was introduced in the Heresy. Flashback was talking with the Emperor. So they kind of did it nice. Yeah, and like you said, it's minute to midnight and they need an influx of something. So we bring back something from the past. Now, they wanted to change the scale, so could they have done Mark 10 just by not necessarily low-wise making them bigger and maybe less people would have complained? That's something else. But having new tanks and new things, it made sense. And you saw that they even tried to follow their old pattern from Forge World. Like they have like a template for the Grav ones, like let's say the Repulsor, and then they just duplicated the design depending if it's a gladiator, if it's a whatnot. But like you said, I think some of us that like them less. Me, I don't really have an opinion, which is kind of having one. Like I'm not excited about the Primaris vehicles because I find them bland because they try to put lots of stuff on them, but like it doesn't look that different, but it's different than what was done before. So why not have found back a new Land Raider upgrade or a new Rhino? So just continue. And like you said, probably it was because of people, staff, ideas.
Yeah,
but like
I really,
they had the concept, but they did not execute maybe, I think, as they wanted.
yeah, it's purely educated guess. Just like on my experience of like other projects, what might have happened, but like they just didn't have a correct person to do it for vehicles, while they did have a correct person to do it for characters. And like, it makes sense lore-wise, like even what I said, like Mark 10 looks sort of like Mark 4 upgraded, because that's what was popular when Primaris project started. So obviously if they did Mark 8 and upgraded, I would like, where did you get Mark 8? If it's 10,000 years old, the project, well, a Mark 8 is like, 40 millennium or whatever, like. So that's why it looks like so they're clearly just this. That's evidence for me that they were clearly making those decisions when they were designing how it's gonna look. They were thinking about it, and then the vehicles are just detached from that. They literally, like, Games Workshop are not dumb company. They really, really good at their designs. They always were, in my opinion. So killing the iconic designs, they killed Rhino for 40k in rules, because like obviously you cannot have Primaris in them anymore. Primaris are the meta, right? So you don't use Rhinos, but they actually have a Rhino in front of Nottingham. Like the Rhino is like, so why would they do that? And then they would, I do think it's, they just didn't have someone who could do that well.
Oh.
Maybe they tried and it just didn't work, and they were like, at some point we're gonna have time. Something new. Let's see what happens, right?
You're right. I never thought of that. So one of their thing in front of their store, so one of their iconic thing at Warhammer World is a Rhino, and then at that point you kill the Rhino, and Horus Heresy didn't add yet a new edition. So now we see at least that they're going to support it, and they clearly moved everything that was Forge World to plastic as a same for same. But yeah, so maybe also they, like you said, we're all making educated guess, but we can see it now after fact. It's like they probably had to recover from the death of Alan Blight, and because I'm pretty sure they were going to close Forge World one day, but I'm pretty sure they were not thinking of doing it at that point and with that timing, because now Forge World is basically looped in Games Workshop and it doesn't exist anymore. And they did that, like, they did not advertise it. We all saw it, but they did not advertise it. Like, it got merged in with the new Heresy. And so, but yeah, you're right. Like, you kill a concept, a design that is in front of your store for years. Like, so yeah, that's true.
Castroferum Dread, right? Castroferum Dread is like, who wanted Castroferum Dread to be gone? Like, no one ever, any person you would ask, everyone would, no, this is great. Why? Like, you don't make this business decision unless you're forced into making it. So that's sort of my theory, and that's sort of, and the big, it just, the Primaris vehicles, they just don't, they really go against, at least from like a designer and visual point of view, the way I see things, they really go against. They not only not work with 40k on purely design, they actually go against. And I'm talking about a few different levels of design. It's like the setting design, the visual design, like the art design of it. Because the problem on the lore level that I personally have with Primaris vehicles is the way they made them and the way they wrote them actually makes it anti-grimdark. Because they are so new and so they just did not have time to become those old, maintained over centuries, covered in honors and relics, beasts. That 40k is literally, that's literally what 40k is, by like, if you have to summarize it, it's old, badly, tech maintained without knowing how to maintain it, just shrines of whatever, like, they are, the battles they fought or the they part of it, right? Obviously you have the line rhinos, land raiders and stuff like that, but you always had an option to make this flagship vulnerable land raider or a flagship vulnerable dreadnought. But when the way they introduced the Primaris tech is, you can't have that. They're like, what, in lore, 300 years old right now at most. Like, okay, it's 10,300 years old, but they were deployed for like, I don't know how far the lore progressed. I think they retconned it a little bit. It was like a couple of hundred of years, but not thousands of years. But
they changed it, like the Dark Imperium period. So the Indomitus Crusade, they changed it so that it was ongoing in place of just having happened. So it's ongoing.
So how do you, as a player that also fan of lore, how you take your repulsor and make it, you know, nice and garish and gothic? You literally can't. Like, lore prevents you from doing that. But that's what people like me are getting drawn into 40k setting in the first place. So I think, at least, I don't know if that's like a lot of people who are against and don't like those. I kind of sometimes think that's the reason why they don't like it, because it doesn't fit and they cannot make it fit, because like it's just lore. It's literally lore prevented. It's like a bad writing design of the vehicles, in my opinion. And that's probably my biggest gripe with them that I have. And again, I probably understand why it happened, and I'm not holding it against Games Workshop in any way that, you know, like, oh, you suck, you can't even do it. Yeah, like, no, like, obviously there was a reason for that to happen. They're not dumb. Like, they also, they might just have wanted to try a new thing. And what I really like about them and what they've done is they clearly noticed that this did not work. In my opinion, like, at least that's how I'm seeing it. Because if they were really pushing, if primary stuff worked and people liked it and their numbers shown that it's working, and fine, like, but you have Gravis armor, right, which is Terminator of primaries, right? Why would you a couple of years later refresh firstborn Terminators? If you're that set on doing primaries a thing, you don't do that. Like, that's dumb. And also, it's their best refresh. Well, they made a couple of scenes, but like, that refresh to me was like, holy shit, I have no notes. This is perfect. Because it looks, the way I sort of define the perfect refresh for things that are iconic and nostalgic is it has to look exactly as you remember, but it isn't exactly as it was. So the way the new Terminators, when I looked at them, oh, this Terminator, they always look like that. And then you look at the old ones, like, holy shit. No, they don't. Like, yeah, this is like complete, like this, you know.
But you get the same feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
And you feel that it fits with what your picture that you have in your mind, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're
it's like
different.
a movie that we watching as a kid, right? You watch it and then like, oh, the graphics with special effects were amazing and it was brilliant and stuff like that. And then you watch it and like, wow, okay, that's not how I remember it looked at all. It's sort of the same.
And with that, go, David.
It's interesting because around 2015, 2019, the spin line we got from Game Workshop is people don't buy new model if they look like the old model. So that was the reasoning behind Age of Sigmar and then the Primaris. But what we're listening to you and what we see, it looks like they reverted back, and maybe old model reworked do sell.
I mean, look at
they should have looked at the clothes and songs and all those other line of hobby or artistry, like nostalgia sells, and now we see it even more in the late 2000s. Like, so people still, like you said, they want a new design, but you still want to be able to, in a weird way, relate to it or still feel like it didn't change. So, and now we see it. Old World sells a lot. The new Terminator. Another good example is I don't know if you saw the new drop pods. It's basically the same design that they just changed a bit. They upscaled it, and then suddenly Primaris and normal Terminators can go in it. So, as you said, we're not stupid. Like, it's okay. It's fun to understand their train of thoughts, but you're clearly seeing that they're moving away from let's change everything to let's design new things, but keep it in kind of way. So the Terminators are bigger also. They didn't need to say they were Primaris Terminator. They just
that was the test. That was if I fumbled on Primaris, if I was a sort of, I don't know, a director or something, and I've noticed, okay, we fumbled on that. People are not happy. It didn't increase sales. Like, I don't think sales is a driving force for their designs, because I don't think releasing Primaris reduce their sales. I don't think so, because there's no other option. if you go to the shop, you cannot, and you look at the rules, same rules that are equivalent. That's all you have buy. You know, if you need a tank to transport your primaries, you cannot buy a Rhino. You have to buy an Impulsor. So the sales for people who played the game are probably the same as they always were, because they all avatar.
Yeah, and a big shift is Games Workshop is going, like you said a bit sometimes today, like they are going to a meta-centric thing. So they're really catering to tournaments and kind of as a esports, as we talk often.
Yeah.
So people are still, even if they're not happy, their current crowd is going to switch to the new thing because they need it, as you said, because of point, because of tournaments, because of rules. So I don't think it's going to affect their sale. It's maybe going to affect like how some people think, but like in general, I don't think the sales are going to go down if they do more or less of something. So,
but I think what happened is, I think they might have noticed that catering to people like us who don't necessarily go on tournaments, they just like collecting minis and just, you know, live in the universe and stuff like that. Not going for primaries might give them even more sales over time, because they're losing our market. They're not losing, they didn't dip down, they were going on the same thing. They put primaries, they're still going at the same thing, but they've noticed if they not do that, they might actually go a bit higher.
They can do more.
They get us as well, not just.
If my new kit, you're gonna buy it because you need it for rule reasons. But if it also cater to people that care more about the design and the lore, then I'm selling to, like they were doing in the past. Like some of the changes they did, like Age of Sigmar Primaris, it created a schism in their fan base. I think some people before, everyone liked or did not, but a design, but it was not as clear cut as it was for some of those decisions, that some people said, I'm gonna buy the old stuff. The tournament guys, they don't care. They're like, I'm gonna buy the thing to go to the tournament. But a guy like us, maybe he's gonna take the decision of, well, I'll keep my old stuff, or I'll used the old stuff. So if you don't cater to those ones, over time you lose maybe a bit of opportunity. Let's say not necessarily money, but that's a good point.
And I think the Terminator release, like, if again, I'm not a business person. This is just like some things I've noticed sort of and learned in the last 2 years and stuff like that. But if I was unhappy with what more, not the sales, but like opinion of people, like you see people are unhappy with it, like they don't like the designs, they prefer the old designs. I would release something that's iconic, do what I think they should have done with a Primaris in the first place, is just like, and what they're doing right now. Like, give it nice Primaris treatment, but make it old, which is Terminators. Do it. Let's see what happens. Like, it was. I don't think I've heard one person who's like, I don't like it. Like, everyone loved it. I loved it. I even have a box and I play the game. I just absolutely love it. And since then, every single refresh they've done, like, look at Eldar. They're exactly the same Eldar they always were. They added new one. They added new Phoenix. But like, the way I looked at I literally happened to me. I looked at the announcement. They didn't do anything to them. They look exactly the same. And then you look at the old ones, like, oh wow, Horus did a lot to them. They're nailing it. Space Wolves, like, look at the Space Wolves announcement. They actually look Firstborn, like, because they remove. They even put like Earth helmets on the recruits. Obviously, in lore they use like,
and they remove some of the more primary stuff, like what everyone talked about, like the knee pads. They went back to more something that looked like the older mark. So they're doing subtle like design change so that your brain sees as it was before, but it's a big difference. And then the Space Wolf, I ordered a box for when it comes out, because they have all new faces, new pose, but then it's Blood Claws and Grey Hunters. It's the same, but it just made it better.
Whoever is designing their character department and like the 40K is a genius. Like, that guy, I don't know who he is. I don't really follow, and also they don't really announce that stuff for some reason. But whoever is dealing with their characters, refreshes, and is just a genius. Like every single refresh they do, I'm like, wow.
Another good example is the Krieg stuff. It's
but the Kriegs is like exactly like look at the Kriegs, like yeah, that's Kriegs. The Kriegs we always seen and stuff like that. They're a little bit more different because like their steeds, for example, look like they are definitely the most changed, but they still absolutely look. They don't have new units. They have.
But the feeling and you look at them and you're like, yeah, it's Krieg. And then if you compare Forge World with what they did, you say, oh, okay, they really changed it and they changed the scale and blah, blah. But then when you quickly look at it, you're like, yeah, you recognize what's iconic and what your brain expects it to be. So I think that's what they started again to be able to do properly. So it's making new stuff with old stuff.
The drop pod you mentioned, that's their, depending on how this section's going to go and what's going to happen with that. It's the same, it's Terminator's moment to me.
Mm-hmm.
The reaction to that, what's going to happen, how many...
For the vehicles, you think? It's going to be...
That's the decision between bringing rhinos back, making Primaris rhinos, or just sticking with what they have. This is the moment. This is the moment that decides the fate of Land Raider.
That's what I was going to say. Then you're going to start to sweat because they're going to maybe touch your preferred kit.
Land Raider is not my preferred kit.
Oh, no. So what's your preferred kit?
I don't think, again, I have kits I don't like, but I don't like, there are kits I don't like, the designs.
But in general, you like the overall designs, you don't have a favorite one.
Yeah, I can't pick. They all like the firstborn vehicles are so well done and so ingrained in my sort of psyche and imagination. I can't pick a favorite. Like, yeah, Land Raider is great, but like I can't say I like Land Raider more than Rhino. Because I can't. They just like so. They just package. They're just one thing. Same with the range in the Horus Heresy. Like there's 2 or 3 ugly children that I'm not like, you know what, move back. But like other than that,
but I agree with you. Like because they really sneaked in the drop pod. They did not even announce it at Adepticon or LVO or whatnot. They just said on the beginning of a week, birds are chirping outside. It's becoming spring. Hey, look, I'm gonna have drop pods. They're bigger. I remove stuff. There's 2 in a box. The doors are open. What do you think? And like you said, then maybe in a year or so, the new Rhino rumbling in, and then they're never gonna say we're canning Primaris, I think.
So,
but they're moving.
I'm not sure you've seen. I've did
rumbling.
But you've seen what followed a couple of days after.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed what followed a couple of days after? Like they released it sneakily. I think they did not feel very confident. So maybe. So they released drop pod very, very sneakily. And again, this is like conspiracy theory level of connecting lines with the red string. I have no evidence for that whatsoever.
But it's fine. We have the right to do it. It's like talking about sports. We can say whatever we want because we don't have the information.
But like, they released the drop pod, which is the first vehicle for Space Marines they released since Primaris. Just 5 or 6 years. Like
since the 2 initial range, so all the grav stuff, so repulsor, gladiators, bicycle.
I don't remember anything since the Primaris rollout. I don't think there was any Space Marines
vehicles. No, they did dreadnoughts based on their new Primaris frame, but they have not done new vehicles.
I include that in the same release. The first initial release, like so the Redeemer, Thor, and the Brutalis, they still, in my opinion, they're still Primaris situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they sneakily released the drop pod, which is incredibly low risk investment for them. They're not committing to changing anything important at that point. Because drop pod, who gives a shit? I don't even think they were played like at all. It's an iconic design. Every movie, every book has drop pods, like always did. But if they mess it up, nothing really happens. They picked that for a reason, like clearly. And they released it sneakily with no fanfare. I think they feel a little bit like, yeah, okay, vehicles point. To see what happens. I think the reception was really, really good. I loved it. I don't think many people... Who's going to be like, I'm not going to play drop...
No, because drop pods, like I have, me and Kevin together have like 20 of them now, but it's because we want to do a drop pod Horus Heresy game.
Like,
So
general,
that's as you said, that's more for lore and people that want to do something specific. It's not affecting the community that plays more tournament and stuff like that. It's like it's an easy, like you said, easy risk.
Yeah, but what it does, it shows them, okay, so now what if we, like, it's literally asking a questions. Look at this. If we did that to Land Raider, would you be happy? It's literally asking a questions to the community.
Yeah, it's almost like a focus group, like here, look at this picture and look at this picture. Which one do you prefer? Oh, you like this one. Okay. No reasons, just asking.
No, that's when I sent, what I read is, like, I did my own sort of take on how I would deal with the Primaris vehicles, and I released the Mark Land Raider Mark IV, as I call it, the tracked repulsor. And when I was designing that thing, that's exactly what I was doing with my friends. It's like, what do you think about that, huh? Like, does it work? That's exactly what they've done on a large scale. And notice what happened a couple of days after they released that. Let's celebrate Land Raiders 25 years.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Right? Would you make that article if you were about to kill a model? Well, no one made a 25 years for the Rhino, and it's older than a... Because at that point, they were killing it. Why?
I think so.
Where is my Rhino? Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe there was. I don't remember seeing it.
No, they did not. But I had. It's funny because I know you were going there because I had the same reaction when I saw that a couple of days ago. Like, you sneaky bastard! So they're basically saying the Land Raider is not going to be dead; it's going to come back because you're not going to make a post like that and kill it.
So I was talking about this stuff since I came back to the hobby with like my friends and stuff like that. I have logs to show as an evidence. Basically what I'm saying about them not being happy about Primaris designs, they're gonna be bringing firstborn designs back and stuff like that slowly. Like they won't kill it, they won't retcon it, they will like diffuse it back in and correct the mistake over like years or decades. And now I can make like, I'm on record, I can make that guess. But like I sort of feel like maybe Vashtor is gonna destroy some forge walls that make Primaris shit very, very soon, and they're gonna have to take out of mothballs some of the old vehicles and maybe upgrade them to like put the Primaris into them because they will actually not have.
That's a good guess.
That's sort of where I would go.
There's also a failsafe, I think they put, that I discussed a couple of times with the guys, because that part of the lore of the Primaris, if you want, they retcon it. So Guy Haley did 2 books, and they did other books at the beginning of the Plague War, so the end of the Indomitus Crusade, and midway they decided to do it over. He rewrote those books with a different timeline.
There you go.
And there's a part that Gulliman speaks with Cal for. It's like they show it as an example when they're discussing. Cal is basically using a AI, which Gulliman hates and is like, I should kill you for it. Why'd you do that? But like all the rest, Cal is just saying, because I'm Cal and I can do whatever the fuck I want. And since this guy one day he's gonna fuck up because they're preparing for it. And in one of those discussions, Cal, so I don't remember how they called it, but the AI has a name, and he says. He re-asked to Gulliman, like prime call, or like the real call, would like to, because it's all questions that are basically preordained, because it's not supposed to be an AI. But then Gulliman argues with it, and he's like, "You're an AI. You're not like preordained question. And am I speaking to an AI, or is it fucking Cal on the other side?" And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." But he's re-asking the same question and adapting, and the question and the line of questions are around. Can I use the gene seed from the traders? It's all going to be fine. And then in the first iterations of the book, it's just the question. In the new iteration of the book, it's implied it's already done. And he's asking for validation. And then when Gulliman is like, no, what the hell? No, it's okay. No, nothing happened. All good, all fair. Disconnecting. So they already have also a failsafe, like, okay, Primaris stuff is going to be tainted. because Cal decided to let's try a bit of Conrad Cruz here.
I don't think so. First of all, Kaul is probably one of my favorite characters, and I actually do like the
It's
new
really
lore.
great.
And I think what they've done and the decision making for it is brilliant, because so they have amazing writers. Don't I always forget his name, but like the guy that just got promoted to like the director of narrative, and the guy that wrote Night Lord books and then all the Chaos books, and they're just the best books in the range.
ADB, yeah.
Yeah,
Aaron
ADB.
Dembski Bowden.
So yeah, exactly. They have like the writer team has always been the strongest team they've had. They don't very rarely miss. They do exactly what they're supposed to do, and it works, and it's really, really good. That's why probably lore and reading books is my favorite thing out of the hobby. And I do this for a living, so you can tell how much I like it. Kaul, I think, is brilliant character. The reason for Primaris and how it all came up, I think it's great. The new lore is great. I literally only have an issue with the vehicle design, as in visual design, and like how I would do it as a subject of my job. And if I was hindsight 2020, it's easy to say what I would do when there is all this after knowledge since the Primaris release, but
we can. That's part of the fun.
yeah, of course. So I thought about it for a bit, because like when I design something, I don't design something for it to look good. Like everything on what I make has to have a reason on it to be. It has to be sensical and grounded in reality, not our reality, just setting, right? But if I was tasked with designing, we are in the situation we discussed. We're rolling out the new, more powerful Space Marines, and I'm tasked with designing the new vehicles for the range, so people buy new kits. But those restrictions basically we talked about. I would do to the vehicles exactly the same thing that they did to the character. You cross the Rubicon with it. You basically need to upgrade them so they are better, but they look the same, or they are from the line, right? Instead of having Land Raider Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 2B, Mark 3 repulsor, you go to Mark 4, right? And you kind of follow you follow that line. And the way I would do it, and forgive me, I don't remember if Wotan existed at that point, but the way I would do it is I would take Kaul, go to Iron Hands, start crusade with them to go to the Wotan territory and steal one of their Wotan that has ability to adapt existing tech for a new purpose. You put a STC whatever into it, and because it's an AI, it's a Wotan, it's old and stuff like that, it can we need this to be, fast deployable Land Raider that can fight with being surrounded, right? And he's coming up with Mark 4 repulsor rider take off, right? And then you just that sort of was my thinking about when I was doing.
Because remind me, I didn't read a lot of the Wotan lore, but the Wotan do they imply or they have STC's template, or they use a similar technology?
As far as I understand, I'm not an expert, but as far as I understand, the Wotan are the STC. They are the artificial intelligence, but they are just, because they were detached and they weren't really lost and they were praised, and what they were doing is, I think they're cloning themselves and they bringing them back into AI, and the memories are staying with it over this long period of time. The AI kind of gets crazy because of that overload. They obviously and they all have different personalities and characters. But basically, why I picked Wotan and Iron Hand, they don't have sell a little bit of that range and cool lore to Wotan, because right now I think Wotan is they exist. That's about it. That's sort of my headcanon how I would do it, but the goal is so you can take vulnerable Land Raider that's 10,000 years old, has all the things, shove it in there, and it comes out, and it's Theseus' ship, right? It's still the same Land Raider. It just has new sensors, new turret on it, and some new hard point, and changed, but it's still the same Land Raider. And at that point, you're opening the thing that you still have a repulsor that's like 10,000 years old, but it's actually repulsor. You give him the same stat block, you give him the same weapons. You know what I mean? That's how I would do it. And that's what they're doing with the characters, which is obviously, you know, they had the idea, and I just don't know, like, actually don't know what happened, why they treated them separately.
Well,
because like
good.
Cawl came up with the in lore right now. Cawl came up with this tech 10,000 years ago. Where did those designs come? What did he base them on? Why? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why it's that and not, you know, in lore you have Land Raider Achilles, right? Which is literally they needed a platform for like a siege Land Raider for the new weapon, that grenade land. They needed a vehicle that has a energy absorbent. It's literally in lore the most resilient vehicle Space Marines ever had. It can take more shots from energy-based weapons than a Baneblade. So they need that, right? And what do they do in lore?
Mm-hmm.
They rebuild Land Raider with new materials, but it still looks like a Land Raider. So if they need, and at that point they have Graphtech as well, you know, I think Land is still alive in that time, right? So the Land Raider is actually, he has his own personal Land Raider, that's a Grav Land Raider and stuff like that.
Yeah, at the end of the Heresy,
like, I know he was doing it in a secrecy, but like secrecy doesn't prevent you from using existing designs. Data, like, you know what I mean? There is this big disconnect in lore for me that's like just doesn't mesh. So yeah, but that's sort of that's how I spend most of my days thinking about this stuff.
But it's not super hard to fix. That's what we're saying. Like, they're already looking at ways of like changing it, because it's not really to fix it or a mistake. It's just they decided to change again, and it aligns with what we think. But like,
well,
me, I'm all for the old designs.
The mistake is only a mistake if it didn't work out, right? Because if it did work out, it would be brilliant. Like, oh wow, everyone was happy with it. Then they would carry on with it. And
you're right. The reality is, if they're doing it now, it's because they at least on their end they saw something that they didn't like and they decided to change it. So it's not more complicated than that.
And I do think it's, I wonder, because like this is something I think about with like actually researching properly. I would have to see the timings of like events, of like Forge World Collapse, and then like when the primaries came out, and like sort of see how, like, kind of consider how long things and decisions like that take, because that was a big decision for someone to make. Yeah, like the decision about something I was like about a year ago, I was thinking about, like, because Land Raider is like the second most profitable kit they have, but it's also 25-year-old kit, which is absolutely horrible. Like, when I make my own, I literally sculpt most of it because like nothing aligns. But they cannot pull it because it like makes them so much money. This is the reason why it's still with the prime lineup. I'm not sure you've noticed, but that's like the only way. It's literally officially like, I think it's Repulsor Executioner and then Land Raider. And it's not the most units sold, it's the most profitable because they're expensive kits. So, you know, so how do you do that? Like, they have 3 options, which is keep it as it is. That's not gonna work long. Like, at some point, people are gonna start asking questions in this 20. You can pull it out, but like, it's the most profitable kit we have. Like, you don't pull something like that out or redesign. And right now, it's obvious choice. But like a year ago, when I was thinking, none of those is risk-free. They all incredibly high risk, and someone has to make one of those decisions at some point. And I bet you no one in that corporation wanted to be that person. Maybe that's why it took so long until they have like more. Like, it was 33%, 5% more before I make that call, right?
Yeah.
That was sort of the problem they had with the whole entire range, and someone had to make a call, and I really hope that person does not feel bad about it, because like, wow, like making decisions like, okay, we're pulling Firstborn out. We're refreshing our most iconic range with completely new designs.
I'm sure it was not one person anyway, but for sure someone brought the idea. But like,
there's always one person who's like, okay, guys, yeah, we're glad we had this conversation.
yeah, but
yeah. No, it obviously was the effort, but at some point there was like 12 people who are on the same level, but at some point someone was, okay, well, yeah, I think that's what we're doing. Let's call this meeting, right? That's the guy, right?
Yeah.
That's probably CEO or CCO or whoever C they have.
Oh yeah, there's someone, but like kind of a business decision.
Yeah, that was someone who was he didn't sleep before and after for a long time, I think, and I really, really admired having balls to make that call. Sorry, it didn't work out. It seems maybe it did. Again, I don't know, because maybe it's absolutely fine and years and pulling at strings and see, literally creating a conspiracy theories.
That's what we do here, like everyone.
I mean, they're not very transparent companies, so obviously this stuff is going to happen all the time. But like, yeah. So now I'm happy. It seems like the Land Raider is going to be getting a refresh. I'm really happy.
Yeah.
Based on
so we can at least invite you back to discuss when Vashtor destroy Forge Worlds and or Khal creates an heresy, or the Votan pimps out the Land Raider, and he can say, "Oh, Michael said it."
It's not gonna be. I don't know when it's gonna happen. I have a weird feeling.
Oh,
I have a weird feeling the next Space Marine Codex is gonna be the Land Raider Refresh Codex. And I think the next Space Marine Codex is gonna be the codex where we're gonna drop the Primaris Firstborn keywords.
But they have already started to less and less use the Primaris word or Firstborn. They just talk about Space Marines since last edition.
And so, I do feel like that's gonna be.
We ain't stupid. We ain't stupid. Like you said, everyone can see it. It's not necessarily that, in my mind, it's not even a retcon. It's just they're playing on words and the design to change it. Now, could they come out and say, this is why we're doing it? Yeah, but they clearly decided they're going the route of like, you guys are intelligent enough, see what we're doing, and like, this is what's going to happen.
Nothing I'm guessing here comes from me just guessing. It's like all based on sort of my experience in not the same, but like related industries and how things work, and just educated guys.
And that's why it was funny to talk about, because we think a bit the same, and like and we talked about it in the podcast, and at the same time it's how it affected your work, because that's part of the reason, because you said, I want to change this and that because I can do it this way, I like it better. So it's what's created the whole thing. So we'll see. So talking of that, we're coming at the end, so you could talk a bit. What's the projects then? What are you gonna decked out differently? What are you working on? You touched a bit the repulsor thing, because you posted stuff on social media now.
Yeah, I already released that. So that's basically I've noticed there was a bit of a hunger on the like online. People really want tracked repulsor kit. And there is few that you can print yourself, which literally take the skids out and just put things, but like you have the jet engines at the end, and it just looks, to me, just now. So it's actually a little bit silly. I had the sort of Reddit argument with someone which ended in, oh, if you're so smart, how about you do it yourself? And I was like, yeah, okay then. I did. And then basically I designed it. So I wanted to, whenever I design my kits, I always try to keep as much of original plastic kit as possible. Because I will always do kits. I will never do the full vehicles, because I don't want to. I kind of want to work in a way that's fair to Games Workshop. I'm not here to like profit on their IP, but by taking their profit away and like funneling it in, I do want to always assure that if someone buys my kit, they always had to buy Games Workshop kit before. And also I want to be fair to the customer, so they don't have to buy a kit to like put a floor panel in and then everything else is mine. Like that's not fair. So I'm always trying to keep as much of plastic as possible while also achieving my sort of design goals. So unfortunately with Repulsor, I tried, but like basically anything from roof under is mine. Because when I wanted to design the tracked kit, I wanted it to look like it was supposed to always be tracked. And I also, you know, the whole lore, I always base my designs on lore, even if it's just in my head and I just came up with it and no one else knows about it. This is basically what I imagined if that Votan S. Land Raider in.
That's a good example.
So maybe my so this was supposed to always look a little bit Land Raider. Like I even, you know, the defense turrets, whatever they called, when you have like missile launchers or heavy or storm bolters on the side. I actually delegated them to like Predator looking like sponsons on the side, just so it brings that verbal look a little and looks a little bit more land.
Looks like Land Raider.
Yeah, well, it's this one actually was like supposed to, because it was supposed to be literally Land Raider Mark IV in my head canon. So that's out. I've done the first one I've done was the
Imperial Fist.
Yeah, which is, God, they are just so difficult to give them identity. Not in Horus Heresy. Horus Heresy is easy, but in 40k, because they are so, they're just like Germans. I think they're even based on like Germany, the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because they're just so efficient, and they're just such a good engineers. There is nothing to latch on other than yellow, and I never design my stuff. My stuff should look like the faction it's made for when it's gray, and ideally without their icons on. Like if I can pull off the design that it's just my design, there is no symbols, no like stuff that's stuck on. It's just the shape, language, the plates, how they've stuff like that. If that already reads like the faction, that's like my holy grail. So yes, finding the identity that is just theirs for this kit, that was pain. I was actually accidentally kind of led in a direction I took, which someone told me the Achilles Land Raider was an Imperial Fist design. They designed that. They needed that. They designed it together with Mechanicum, and the Achilles that's literally Imperial Fist's tank, right? That's why it took a lot of views
of the idea. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's that's this similar look of like the things in the middle, the shield at the front, the plates over the tracks.
And that's just almost like an Easter egg for the lore nerd. No, even I didn't know that before I started the lore nerds, but also gave me something consistent that I can like kind of expand to the other designs as well of them. And obviously like added plates, but they more like modern tank added plates, while the World War II slats they reserved for Iron Warriors later, maybe one day when I have time, because I want them to be like sort of the size of the same coin. So that was quite fun to do, and now I'm gonna be Spacewood, which is just shedding a lot of weight and putting a lot of aggressiveness. You know, more also very Nordic, and I'm very anti-making Space Wolves look like Vikings in the future. I do think the way I approach.
You find it a bit cliche, or
no, I just don't think. Maybe I explain it this way. Whenever I design something, I design sort of visually that's how it would be built. So the way I think about it is they get the tank, they throw it into their forge world, and they do with it whatever they want. So it's their role. And then at the end, the rune priest comes and scrapes some runes of it, and then they start hanging pelts of it top. And the same with weapons and armor. So their axe is not going to look like a Viking axe held by a Space Marine. It's going to look like a power axe that was
they
made
add on stuff on it.
Yeah, it was made to look like that. So there's always this high-tech underlying layer. And Viking stuff just doesn't work for that. That's why, you know, their shield is still going to be a force shield. It's going to look like it can have a pattern on it or runes on it. Like that sort of, and because they have a luxury of having their own sort of forge world and fang and things, you can actually like modify it more than other chapters that don't have that look good. So you can kind of like take some plates out, add some plates in, like Imperial Fist stuff. All of the stuff is added on top. So if you like study it, you'll see all the plates they bolted to, and underneath is still whatever is the generic one. So that's kind of fun thing to do. And then after Space Wolves, I think, like in the near future, next project is just definitely gonna be a Dreadnought kit, which is gonna be amazing, and I can't wait to start working on it. And I wish I have time. So
yeah, we can talk to you about it another time, because I think that's a whole thing. Your bromance with the Bucks Dreadnought, I think it's going to be a cool project. So we can maybe talk about it when you start to show concepts to people. Yeah. But yeah, me, I like it because again, we discussed it. I like the look of the old Bucks Dreadnought. It's just at some point it needed to evolve to become more modern. But now that I see what they're doing with Terminators, the drop pods, the Space Wolf, I'm like, yeah, I want to see how that Dreadnought would look like now.
Another wild prediction. I want to see what's going to happen with I think it's called Bjorn Fellhanded, the Dread of Space Wolves coming out, because they have to make him.
Because he's a Bucks Dread.
Yeah, I kind of want to see what they're going to do with that, right? Because they either move his sarcophagus to Redemptor chassis, but as far as I know, he's not very friendly, and I think he never sleeps. So doing that might be challenging at most. I might be wrong on the lore here. He doesn't sleep. He always awake or something. So taking him out from something like he might be, there's a lot of fighting. So I kind of want to see what they're gonna do with that. That might like where they're taking Dreadnoughts next, but I don't know. Just something I was thinking.
Yeah, that's a good guess. We'll see how it goes. Good. I think we've rambled a bit. David is telling me the Time Master has said we have talked enough. So I think we're going to wrap this up for next time. But where can we go on social media to see you, your websites, Instagram?
I'm mostly working through Instagram. So it's Instagram / Ikarus Pattern. Yeah, that's
and you have your Etsy store and it's linked to your Instagram. So if people want to see all the cool stuff you did and buy it,
I don't. Yeah, I'm always feeling really weird about advertising it. I'm not a marketing person for sure. I need to hire a marketing person to deal with that stuff. Always makes me feel a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, it's the domain that my shop is linked to is ikaruspattern.com, and then you can also go to my production partners, which is godforgeminis.com. Those two shops are the shops that operate like they sell our products, and we are only physical product company. We don't sell files. We most likely never will unless something changes in the far future. So that's sort of the only thing you from us. We're aiming for like high-end premium, very, very high quality products with really, really good service. So we always replace anything that comes broken, not up to standard. We'll always replace it. And free shipping UK and US right now. We're working on other to deal with all the customs and long shipping times.
That's not helping. All the issues in the world. But we did an unboxing of one of your kits, so it's pretty premium resin. Like people should not be scared of using that.
The resin, we worked really, really long time on getting the resin right. It's I don't remember last time I got, unless someone stepped on a box clearly and played football with it. I don't remember last time we had, this is broken, can you replace it? It's mostly more things like just a misprint we missed with a fairly small organization right now and stuff like that. But we always replace those.
You know what you're doing. You even made me buy a new printer because I was like, I didn't know that brand looks pretty great. Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Hopefully, yes, we spend a lot of time on finding the correct resin. We're using our own mix as well, which is like So it's not, it's like perfect balance between detail and brittleness. And, you know, if you really push at it, it will break, but stick. But like you can drop most of our stuff from the table and very rarely it will.
Yeah,
it will
it's still not castable resin, but it's still pretty great compared to. It's on par with many of the companies that found their own recipe to have, like you said, brittle but details, because it's still resin that's cured with UV. So it's always going to be a bit brittle, but like it's yeah, you can drop it. I did the drop test. It's fine. It didn't break anything a couple of times.
Yeah, we're definitely aiming at more people who are really passionate about the army and they really want it to be like, you know, the best of the best. And they really want to for it to look good, and you know, it's worth for them a lot, and that's sort of their main objective. People like me and probably you guys and stuff. It's like really, you know, the hobby is the army needs to look like they want it to look.
Yeah. Each time I sit at my desk with a box and I say, like, Kevin is both. He can like build stuff, like he's churning a Shattered Legend with a baby in his arms right now. I don't know how he's doing that because he wants. I think that's Kevin. He talked about Isvan 5, and he's probably gonna redo it by himself with all the armies. So that's him. But me, each time I sit with a kit and I'm like, I'm just gonna build the kit as it is. 5 minutes later, like, you know those memes. 5 minutes later, I'm in my bits box printing bits, taking this, converting that, and then what's happening?
But yeah,
we're different hobbyists.
I think that's sort of the marketing. Just
people that want to customize,
or on Instagram or wherever. You know, I'm always chatting to everyone. I really like. One of the main reasons I started doing it so openly was to just people, and then just make some cool stuff for them, and then like sort of, you know, accidentally happened into a full-time thing I'm doing. Like it wasn't planned. So yeah, that's sort of where I am on the socials. All my kits are commission based, probably worth mentioning. So like, except Emperor's Children, which are mine. So they all started from someone commissioning it, me working with them, and then offering them very low sort of rate relatively to what I would if it was just a one-off, and then I sort of hedge it against the Etsy sales, so they get low product. I get, you know, my money back over time from it, so I don't feel like I have to go back to my old work. And then people are also like, you know, can get the same sort of high quality kit as later as well, and it's just not a one-off in someone's shelf somewhere in the world. That's how it works. But right now it's like, yeah, probably shouldn't advertise that because I don't think I can get a new commission until maybe early next year. So yeah, that's basically about it. I don't know.
Good. Yeah. So there's only one thing left to do. So you're not obligated, but what we do usually at the end of an interview, and it's even more funny with people that don't speak French. Maybe I should not say that, but I said it. So, you know, our podcast is called Soirée Peinture, so it's basically painting nights in French. So, and at the end of our episodes, we say, so as we said, have a good painting nights to people, but we say it in French. So maybe if you want to have a go at it, try to say like a couple of words in French. So, Bonne Soirée Peinture. We're not going to make fun of you. People.
Sorry, what was the last word?
Peinture. Bonne Soirée.
Soirée Peinture.
Yeah. You're better than Duncan Rhodes. Here you go. That's settled.
Lifelong dream achieved. Better than Duncan Rhodes at something. It's not painting, but you know.
Well, so thank you. And David, to other people, what do we have to say?
Bonne soirée peinture.
Thank you, guys. See you next time. You're natural.
Thank you.